Before I start this one, let me reset the table because this video is a little different from what I normally make. If you are new here, I talk about the financial side of leaving the United States, visas, tax, cost structures, the systems that follow you no matter where you move. Usually, I am explaining a rule or running numbers. Today, I wanted to do something I have not really done on this channel, walk you through a place, not as a tourist, but a history walk because I moved my family to Panama City about 15 days ago. We have been living right up against the historic district, and the neighborhoods taught me something I think everyone planning a move abroad needs to hear. Here's the honest, upfront version. I love it here. And parts of it are more run down than I expected. Both those things can be true at the same time. And by the end of this video, you will understand why they are true at the same time, because the answer is 400 years old. When people hear historic district, most of us picture the same thing: clean colonial streets, restored facades, cute cafes, plazas, tourists taking photos, everything finished and well lit at night. Walk through parts of Casco Viejo and you get exactly that. The old walls, the restored buildings, the rooftop restaurants, boutique hotels. It earns its postcard. But walk 10 minutes in the wrong direction, or honestly just look down the wrong street, and that picture changes. Buildings with trees grow out of the roofline, facades held up by scaffolding that has clearly been there for years. Trash piled at corners. A truck visited yesterday but didn't take everything. Blocks that feel less like a museum and more like neighborhoods that have been carrying a weight for a very long time. Now, my family booked our first apartment in the views towards Casco Viejo. What we actually moved into was the eastern edge of Santa Ana. And at first, I will be honest, it felt like a rougher neighborhood than the listing photos may have suggested. Not dangerous, but grittier for sure, louder, less finished. I could have left it at, well, this is Latin America. This is Panama City, like I think a lot of content creators do, especially those visiting with this tourist mentality. But to me, that answer is kind of lazy and it's wrong. The real answer is better. Let's start with why this district exists at all. The original Panama City, what it is now, the ruins of Panama Viejo on the other side of the modern city, was one of the most important Spanish ports in the Americas. Silver from Peru crossed the isthmus through it. And in 1671, the Welsh privateer Henry Morgan attacked it with a force of over 1,000 men. The city was destroyed in that assault and the fire that followed. So in 1673, the Spanish rebuilt it. And they rebuilt like people who had just lost everything. They moved the city into a small peninsula that was easier to defend, and they wrapped it in stone walls. That walled city is what we now call Casco Viejo, or Casco Antiguo, or San Felipe. Three names for roughly the same place. Those old structures there were never just decorative. The vaults built into the seawall, Las Bovedas, served over centuries as storage, military space, and even as jail cells. When you walk that district today with a coffee in your hand, you are walking through a city that was rebuilt around fear, defense, trade, and control. The pretty came much later. The walls came first. Now, here's the part that explains my neighborhood. I say my, but where I was staying. Walls do two things. They keep threats out and they define who is in. Inside the walls lived the elite, the officials, the merchants, the church hierarchy. But a port city needs workers, laborers, tradespeople, laundresses, dock hands, and the walled city had no room and no place for them. From that, a second city grew outside those walls. The Spanish had a word for it, the Arabal, the suburb outside the protection. That Arabal became Santa Ana. Santa Ana was where regular people lived, worked, traded, and built community. It grew around Plaza Santa Ana and its church, which was consecrated in 1764 and stands today as the oldest surviving colonial church of the old Arabal. Over the centuries, that plaza was the civil heart of working Panama City. You had speeches given there, movements organized there. When parts of the walls came down in the 1800s, as the city expanded, the two cities grew into each other physically. But socially, the line those walls drew never fully disappeared. Casco Viejo is the restored face of the historic district. Santa Ana is the working class memory. That is not a metaphor I invented. It is the literal layout of the city. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So why does Santa Ana look the way it looks when UNESCO listed blocks next door gleam? The answer is complicated because restoring a historic building is nothing like renovating a normal apartment. You are dealing with century-old wood, antique electrical systems, fire risks, heritage restrictions on what you can change and what you can't. Ownership that is often split amongst heirs or simply unclear, and renovation costs that can exceed what the building would be worth afterward. Many Santa Ana buildings are privately owned, occupied by renters, inherited through families, and caught exactly in that trap. A Panamanian might put it to you plainly, yes, Santa Ana has history, but history alone does not fix the roof. And I hope to hear from Panamanians in the comments with more context on this entire video. And you can see every stage of that sentence on a single block here. Some buildings are beautifully kept, some are half empty, some are fully lived in and visibly strained, some are waiting for investors, some for the government, and some, honestly, are waiting for nothing. Even the Santa Ana church makes the point. The temple inside the walls got restorations. The Arabal's own church, the 1764 one, has been described in Panama's press as deteriorated and urgently in need of restoration. The last colonial temple of the Arabal still waiting its turn. The contrast between the restored district inside the old walls and the neglected heritage outside them is not my observation. It is a running story in local papers. And to be clear for all the tourists out there, that neglect is not an aesthetic problem. Stay with me here, because this is the part that changed how I look at these streets. As I watched in late June from my renovated balcony, fires tore through that area. A building on Calle 12, or should I say Calle 12, in San Felipe, in the heart of the historic district at 3 in the morning. 79 people were affected. 22 families lost their home and had to be removed to a temporary shelter in a gymnasium. Firefighters pulled an elderly woman out of the building. Days earlier, another fire nearby damaged 4 old tenement buildings and a business and left around 50 people displaced. Investigators' leading hypothesis in these fires is electrical failures. That is what aging wiring, overcrowding, deferred maintenance, and narrow streets with limited emergency access actually mean. These are not just old buildings. They are homes full of children and grandparents running modern loads through wiring installed generations ago. When you hear historic district in need of investment, this is what the need looks like at the ground level. Now, the question every visitor ends up asking, and I asked it too, why is there trash on these streets? Why doesn't it get collected regularly? They do. I see trucks. This zone of the city, including San Felipe, Santa Ana, El Chorrillo, and Caledonia, is actually served directly by the National Sanitation Authority rather than private contractors. That same authority has run repeated cleanup operations through Santa Ana and the surrounding neighborhoods, some involving more than 50 trucks at a time. Their own operations director said publicly that poor waste disposal habits persist, And crews sometimes cannot reach the collection bins because cars are parked in front of them. So from an outsider's perspective, I'd say the system exists, but what overwhelms it is the rhythm of the neighborhood. Dense housing with no modern trash storage, narrow colonial streets, never designed for garbage trucks, heavy foot traffic, informal dumping, and commercial waste. Bags go out, more bags pile on. Bags break, animals get in, the truck comes. Most of it goes, some of it stays. And by the next morning, it looks like not too much has happened. The honest answer to why doesn't someone just pick up the garbage is that someone does daily. And the streets designed in the 1700s and those buildings have no bin rooms. And the budget is stretched and enforcement is thin. It is infrastructure, behavior, density, poverty, and urban design older than the United States, all stacked on one block. But here's where the story turns and where it connects to what I usually cover on this channel. The restoration wave that transformed Casco Viejo did not happen by accident. Panama built a legal regime of tax incentives for restoring the old city, and it worked, arguably too well. Casco Viejo got the boutique hotels, the foreign buyers, the rooftop bars, and prices to match. Unfortunately, Santa Ana got skipped because revitalization starts where the money is easiest. But that is now changing. Panama has been extending the redevelopment push outward with legislation approved to begin urban renewal and incentive benefits in places like El Chorrillo, Santa Ana, and Caledonia, the old Arabal, the exact blocks I have been describing in this video. What raises the question that hangs over every historic district on Earth is, who is the restoration for? If you restore the buildings and push out the people, you save the architecture and lost the neighborhood. Casco Viejo already one lived version of that story. Santa Ana is standing at the start of its own, and you can feel it walking around. The construction next to the decay, the empty buildings next to the occupied ones, the neighborhood that is historic, under-maintained, but lived in, overburdened and suddenly valuable again, all at once. Realistic that gentrification concerns exist for the people who have endured and continue to live there. So let me land this where I land everything. What does it mean for you if you are planning a move to Panama City, or that neighborhood in specific? First, historic district is a legal designation, not a promise of condition. Inside one district, you can have museum blocks and struggling blocks 3 streets apart. The listing photo shows you the view, it does not show you the block. That is why my standing rule from this series is rent short term. Walk the blocks, commit once. I would not have written that rule if this neighborhood had not taught me that. You need to experience for yourself. Second, rough edges are not a scam or a failure. They are usually history you have not read yet. The gap between Casco Viejo and Santa Ana is not neglect versus virtue. It is 350 years of walls, class lines, ownership tangles, and investment sequencing playing out in real time. Understanding that will not make the trash smells better. It will make you a smarter, more respectful, and better positioned new resident. And third, keep both things in your head at once. I did not expect the eastern edge of Santa Ana to look the way it looks, and I genuinely appreciate what this neighborhood is. The working heart of a 400-year-old city in the middle of its next phase. Places like this reward people who show up with realistic expectations and curiosity instead of a postcard in their head. Please let me know in the comments if this kind of on the ground piece is something you want more of alongside the tax and visa content. Tell me and I'll make sure to do some more digging, research, and provide some real information in another video. Subscribe if you want the rest of the Panama series as it happens. You can join my Discord where I discuss these things in real time during our weekly lives. You can find that at brightshadow2k.com. I'm Mr. Shadow. Again, I make content on leaving the United States. And as always, I hope it helps.